Hi, folks, and welcome to today's episode of the Hospitable Hosts podcast. If you enjoy our podcast, please do give us a like, a follow, a review, or even a 5-star rating on the platform of your choice. This helps to support us and make sure more people get to hear our podcast. In today's episode, we're speaking to Gil Chan, the CEO and founder of CraftedStays. We're going to be talking all about direct booking and, most importantly, how to build a winning direct booking website. Let's have a listen. Hey, Gil. Great to have you on. Thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, it's great to be here, Miles.
Cool. So, let's get into it straight away, Gil. Can you tell me a bit more about yourself, your journey, and how CraftedStays came to be?
Yeah, so I'm a host myself. My wife and I, we have 3 cabins. We started hosting, or we started our first purchase back in 21, 22, right at pretty much the start of COVID. And we basically bought in the Smoky Mountains. We were doing pretty good. And we started getting a lot of anxiety of having all of our revenues in the Airbnb basket. I think at that point we were 95% Airbnb, and we had some VRBO. VRBO has picked up quite a bit, so we've diversified quite a bit away from Airbnb since then. But we started to scale our portfolio, and I wanted to kind of free ourselves a bit more. And that's when we decided to get into direct bookings. We wanted to have much control over it, just so that we didn't have all of our eggs in one basket. I'm in tech as well too. I know that most of the agencies out there were building their sites off of WordPress, so that's what we ended up doing. Mm-hmm. We ended up building a WordPress site for our direct bookings. It took, so long. It took me 4 weeks to do it, which is, I'm disappointed in myself because it took so long, because I thought it would be much faster than that. But the site looked really good at the end. It performed really well as well too. And I started to share it with my mastermind groups, my mastermind peers, and they were like, "Oh, Gil, this is awesome. Can you create one for me?" I was like, "No way am I doing that again." Fast forward a little while, my day job is in tech. I was a product director for the last 15 years. Specifically, the last 6 years, I've been in e-commerce. So Shopify has been one of my biggest partners for the last 4. And I saw what Shopify was able to do in the e-commerce industry for the last 14 years. If you wanted to build an e-commerce store, you had a product you wanted to sell, you can build a store in the morning and launch it in the evening. I looked at our industry, and there wasn't much like that. We had the websites that our PMS providers allow us to build, but there's only so much you can do on some of those. And if you wanted anything more than that, you would have to hire an agency that often cost thousands of dollars. So I ended up leaving my W-2 job in tech, ended up starting the company, coded the first version. I did all right. And then I hired engineers to take over it. And yeah, it's been a great ride since.
Nice. That's awesome. Story to hear. I love that. Definitely that, taking the leap as well, right? And coming on to just doing CraftedStays and focusing on that must have been quite a daunting task at the time.
Yeah, I mean, it was, but like, I've now been part of 6 startups. I've seen really large companies grow. I was the first employee at one of my earlier startups. And this is something that I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to start something on my own, try it out. I'm very big on customer service. I'm big on like really getting in touch with the customers. So I still do all of our onboards. I don't know how sustainable that is, but I enjoy talking to every one of our hosts that come through the door and understanding what their goals are, what they're trying to accomplish, what they tried, and how can I help them in that process towards diversifying their revenues away from Airbnb.
Cool, nice. And then, you kind of touched already on kind of diversifying away from Airbnb, I guess, for being a reason around direct. Direct's definitely gaining traction. I think more and more hosts are kind of, waking up to it and starting to build their own websites. What are some of the other advantages for hosts to start considering direct?
Yeah, I think there's a few. One is like, obviously there's a lot of pressure from Airbnb. Probably more recently, they've gotten a lot more stringent. They've been a bit more aggressive on suspending accounts, even for a short period of time. And I think that has charged up the industry quite a bit. Folks are a bit concerned that they have a bit too much power over their own business. Outside of that, we have seen a rise in co-hosting as well too in the industry. So folks are getting co-hosting more, and as you scale up your properties, it becomes a lot more economical to go direct as well too. When you have a wider portfolio, you're able to cross-pollinate folks that have stayed with you in one property and have them stay with you at another one of your properties as well too. And on top of that, I think over probably the last 6 years, there's been a heavy rise in social media and how much of an influence that plays in just kind of the customer buying behavior. Like there's so much impulse buying now in the e-commerce industry, and we're starting to see a lot of that kind of trickle into travel as well too. Folks are posting about their last travel, where they stayed, and I think a lot of folks that leverage social really well end up converting a lot of their traffic, a lot of their bookings to direct, and actually get a lot more revenues out of that as well too.
Nice, yeah. And I guess, a key part on social media, and I think you've kind of talked about this generally before and other podcast appearances you've done, is kind of knowing your target audience, right? And knowing who you're after and tailoring your posts towards that. So how do hosts kind of figure out who their target market is, and how can they bring that through to their website, to their social media, to other elements?
Yeah, I think probably one of the most effective ways to understand who your target market is just really understanding like who your guests are. If you look at your guest communications, you'll easily find out is it couples with 2 stays. They'll generally tell you who they're traveling with, but probably the most like easiest way to do it is if you do a data dump on all your reviews and you collect all your reviews and you bring that into like a word bubble, you'll end up finding out that like there are certain phrases that end up popping on the screen. So like if you ever use any of these tools, you basically give it this big long paragraph of text and it'll parse through and it'll give you like the biggest word, or the most common words will be really large. So we've done that ourselves, and we end up finding that a lot of our properties are multi-generational family stays. So family stays is something that comes up a lot in our reviews. For our pool cabin, a lot of people talk about the pool amenities and how the kids are being able to play in it. So that's able to help us understand who's staying at our place at a much more macro level without having to dive into like the nitty-gritty details. So that's a very, very effective way. And you can use this for your direct booking site, but you can also use this for your Airbnb copy as well too. No matter what kind of how you're doing it, you want to make sure that as you're designing your place, as you're talking about the copy on Airbnb or your direct booking site, you want to make sure that you're really resonating with whoever's staying on the other side of that screen.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I guess as well, when we're writing our website and things, I think a key element of, what we put on our website is trust, right? So building trust with potential guests, because unlike Airbnb, your direct website doesn't have the same reputation, right? So how can hosts go about building trust with the way they, design their website?
Yeah, I think like one is like make sure that you're consistent on your brand. So like when you're looking on your website, and we do this with all of our templates on CraftedStays, we try to keep a certain brand aesthetics with it. So you can change to the different templates, but all the fonts are consistent. It looks very polished. That builds a level of trust that they know that this is a established site. It's not something that we just cobble together. Even though like a lot of our customers like launch in less than an hour, it looks very polished. But I think one of the more effective things is like if you scroll to the bottom of our page on a lot of our templates, we actually encourage our host to put their host image in there. Obviously, they can put an image that's not their face or their family or whatever. But I find that the hosts that do make it much more personable are the ones that have higher conversions. I think that hosts, yes, really appreciate and like to stay with smaller hosts. They like to know that they're not staying with a big property management company, that this is well cared for. Some of them will even read the entire bio and really try to resonate with folks.
Nice, yeah. And I guess that's kind of some of the ways that we should be designing our websites. But what are some of the kind of pitfalls that you see hosts making, some of the errors that you kind of see quite often? Probably not on CraftedStays, but on other websites being built.
I think like probably like the most common like two things I see quite often on people's site is one, a heavy use of animations. Animations look really good. Wix and Squarespace make it very easy for text to animate in and bubble in, and it looks really cool. But if you're talking about a commerce site, commerce sites don't normally have heavy animations because it can often be distracting. What you want to try to do is try to funnel someone towards, in our case, booking. And that kind of leads me to the second one is like trying to not make their homepage, their landing page, way too long. A lot of folks will talk about all the great things to do, all the amenities, all on their homepage, and you're not really trying to funnel someone towards converting. It's like best practices is really trying to like really understand like, are they ready to book? If they are, give them that call to action on the very top of the page, give them the nuggets of information, and then route them to where they can find out more. So if they're looking for things to do, if that's a past guest or someone that's interested in it and you're trying to juice up SEO, don't put that on your homepage. Put that as a separate page, an add-on page if necessary, that can drive conversion elsewhere, but you're not distracting someone that's like ready to book or trying to figure out if any of your stays are open. So try not to make it too long and too distracting.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then I guess, inevitably we're going to have site visitors that don't end up booking, right? We'd love 100% conversion rate, but sadly, it's pretty rare, pretty unachievable. How can we make sure that those people that don't convert consider us for future, or maybe consider us for that same trip and come back to the site?
Yeah, there's this concept of retargeting that's commonly used. So probably one of the most effective ways is if you add the Facebook pixel, Google pixel as well too, and that allows both advertising platforms to be able to know who visit your site, and that allows you to then create ads to retarget those. And everybody should be doing that. If you're driving traffic to your site, expect that most folks that will jump on it aren't ready to book in the first visit. Very likely it'll take them 8 visits for them to actually book. So what you want to do is stay top of mind with them. And you can have a very modest budget. Doesn't have to be a whole lot, but you can spend a little bit on retargeting campaigns that will help drive folks back to your stay, like back to your site. The other way is to collect emails on your site. You don't necessarily have to have a blog. Some folks would say, we'll have a pop-up that occurs, and you only want the pop-up to occur once. So if someone X's out of it, don't have it show again, at least not for 2 weeks. But you're able to collect their email addresses and let them know if there's any promotions, specific dates that you're opening up, any of that sorts. Those work pretty well in collecting emails, and you can definitely automate a lot of those things where that collection is going to some database. You can use MailChimp, Klaviyo, or any of the email platforms, and basically be able to retarget them at a whole at a later time.
Nice, yeah. And then just kind of on that, I said that 100% conversion rate's pretty tough. What are some of the metrics that hosts should be looking at to kind of understand, is my site performing well? Do I need to be looking at changing something? Not just, I guess, the site itself, but marketing holistically. How do they figure out if it's going well? What are some of the metrics they can and should be looking at?
Yeah, so I encourage all folks to have Google Analytics installed onto their site, and I believe that you guys actually just implemented
That's right.
Google Analytics onto yours as well too. So Google Analytics is free. Everybody should be installing it, and it's not easy to get set up. And there are a lot of resources out there on the web on how to look at Google Analytics. But at the very least, install it on there, and that will give you a good sense of your traffic. So like that's the first thing, is really understanding what your traffic is. So what that allows you to do is to understand how much or how many people are actually going onto your site, how many unique visitors, how many total visitors are visiting your site at any certain time. What this allows you to do is to understand whether or not there are certain marketing activities that you're doing that's driving traffic into it. So for instance, you could be working with an influencer that you may think that is driving traffic back to your direct booking site. And if it isn't, then you might have to reconsider what type of influencer you definitely want to work with. And if you ever listen to our podcast, we've talked a lot about influencers and how to work with them and how to effectively find the right type of influencers for your space. But all in all, like, not all influencers are the same, but you want to make sure that you're measuring the outcomes of it. There's ways for you to tag your traffic as well too. So whoever's going to your site, you're able to tag whether or not they came from your Facebook page or Instagram page, someone else's referral. And this allows you to understand, are the right folks coming into your site? How much volume is coming into it? And that leads to the second metric, is conversion. Of the people that are visiting your site, how many of them are actually converting into bookings? And the most effective way is if you're able to target the source of who that person is, understand how much traffic is being built into it, and how much conversion it is, you're able to figure out what marketing activities that you're doing right now that's working really well. You could be doing a little bit of social media, you can be doing a little bit of influencer marketing, you can be doing email campaign, but if you're doing all those all at the same time, you could be spending lots of energy on many different areas where one of those sources can be contributing to the most amount of bookings. So understanding the data behind it all will help you become a much more efficient operator.
Nice, yeah. And, like I said, there's obviously a learning curve with Google Analytics. If you're new to Google Analytics, if you've not used it yet, it may seem daunting, but I think the recommendation, even if you don't know how to use it yet, is at least get it added to your website, right? Because then it can be collecting data, and while you're going away and figuring it out, at least you're collecting that data, right? And then you can always go back and look at that and look at that performance over time, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if folks need me to create a quick loom on how to add Google Analytics to their site, I'll be happy to do that. It's super easy to actually do the adding part of it. But even if you can't read the data, just adding that in there and have it funnel the data into Google Analytics at some later point, you can see for the last year how things have gone and really understand, like, are there marketing activities that I had done in the summer versus the fall that worked better than the others? But definitely using data to understand your overall conversion funnel is very, very important when you're talking about like efficient marketing.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then obviously, for anyone using a Hospitable, website or essentially our widget, there's kind of a set booking flow that the guest goes through. If folks aren't using that, or they want to understand how we're optimizing that flow, I guess, what are some of the key things in that process, I guess, to make sure that we're increasing the amount of conversions, the amount of people that go from looking at your website and loving the pictures of the property to actually going through the booking steps? What are some of the key things we should be looking for and optimizing for, say, if we're not using the Hospitable widget or a Hospitable website?
Yeah, I think understanding if you're building your site on your own, Google Analytics allows you to, even if you don't do any configuration, understand like which pages people are going to. So at the very kind of like hierarchical level, most direct booking sites will have a home page, property pages, and then checkout pages. And so if you're using the Hospitable widget there, you're able to understand like the checkout side of things. And then it's just really trying to figure out, like, on your own pages, are you able to map your pages to the conversion funnel? That's a bit more technical, and you'll definitely have to do some YouTube University to try to figure out how to stitch that together. But understand, like, those are the kind of like the three phases there, and understanding where are people like falling off. Are people falling off on your home page and actually don't make it to any property pages? That probably means that there's probably some optimizations they can do to earn trust even before someone does a search. If it's on the property pages and no one actually makes it to your checkout, there's probably some work that you need to do on your property pages to make sure that you're highlighting the right amenities, you're talking about the right things. Are you showing your location? What are people really trying to understand as they're going through the booking flow? And how do you optimize that?
Nice. Okay. Sounds good. Yeah, there's going to be lots of Googling for how to set some of these things up, and I'm sure, but I'm sure we can provide some useful links in the notes as well. So kind of getting towards the end now, Gil, but I always kind of like to ask people a bit more of a future gazing question. So would love to get your impression on, what do you see for the future of direct and short-term rentals? Over the next year or two, what big changes do you think we're going to see coming to the industry?
Yeah, I think there's probably two inputs, if anything. There's this rise in like GVR, like Google Vacation Rentals is not that old. It's still relatively new. And I think there's still a lot of things that they're trying to work out in terms of being able to give hosts the ability to customize even like the ordering of the picture. They don't right now do that. So there's a very little you can do even on the SEO side, which is kind of odd because Google is all about SEO and be able to optimize the search for that. But they don't right now give you a lot of controls. I think over time, we'll probably see Google Vacation Rentals really rise because a lot of folks, if they're doing any type of traveling, they're looking on YouTube, they're looking on Google of things to do, where to visit, where to stay. So that's a very natural place for people to start their search. I think if Google is able to crack and really convert those users or convert those visitors into bookers, I think the folks that have invested in direct is going to benefit from that. Yeah. On top of that, I think the other trend that I've started to see probably in the last 3 years is that hosts are getting a lot more mature. You're not getting folks that are just, and you probably still, but like most folks are getting into the business now, they're thinking about it as an investment of theirs. They're spending time on high-end, a nice design, knowing their guest avatar, using dynamic pricing, using messaging automation. So like the caliber of hosts that are with us today is much more mature than it was 3 years back. And as we see this, I think that the folks that know how to market their business, know how to speak to their guest avatars, you'll see a lot of redirection of traffic back to direct. So I think like those are two big inputs that I see in kind of the nearish terms that will kind of push people towards a direct movement.
Nice. Okay. Love it. Yeah, we're definitely seeing on the GVR front and Google Vacation Rentals the growth there, growth in adoption and growth in traffic and bookings coming through that. And I'm sure Google are going to spend some more time on it to allow people to actually do more with it, as you say, and improve some of the SEO stuff. And I know we get so many frustrated people when it comes to the order of images. We're frustrated too.
Yeah, I still see like out of all of Google's products, that's probably something that's still somewhat in the very infancy days there.
Yeah.
I don't doubt that 10 years from now, they will have a sizable market share on where people begin their booking journey and actually end up converting into booking their stays there. And they've already done this in other areas. They're already sending traffic. Like a lot of folks, I bet you a lot of our listeners will do track flights on Google. And they definitely like they get some affiliate fees along with that. So I'd have no doubt that they want to be the destination where people book.
Yeah, for sure. That makes a lot of sense. Awesome. So Gil, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure our audience will love to know where can they find out more about CraftedStays and maybe where can they go if they want to get that loom from you of how to set up Google Analytics.
Yeah. So if you go to our website, craftedstays.co, you'll be able to browse our website, understand our features, take a look at some of our templates as well. You can book a demo call. So I use that demo call actually quite often to help folks understand kind of where they are in their hosting journey. Is this the right time for them to get into direct? What marketing are they doing? Because what I found out is that like not everybody has the same roadmap. Not everybody should follow the same roadmap. If you have a unique stay, you should definitely be leveraging social media and influencers. If you're in a vacation market, you should be doing email marketing. So there's different tactics that work for different people more effectively. We ended up starting a podcast that talks all about that. So if you're interested, Direct Booking Simplified, you can listen to us there, and we bring on a new host each week to talk about direct bookings and different aspects of it. But yeah, just book a call with me. I'm more than happy to talk direct and really just help more and more hosts get started in direct bookings. If you many listeners here are already Hospitable users. If you go to the app marketplace, we're listed there as well too.
Sweet. Sounds good. Thank you very much, Gil. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Miles. Bye.
Thanks for listening, folks. Hopefully you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please give us a like, a follow, a share, maybe even a 5-star review. That's going to really help us to get this podcast out to more people and obviously encourage us to produce even more episodes. Thanks again.